Still start. Hey! And now we're live. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty, and we're here to talk animation and comics in the superhero genre today. And with us today is a repeat guest, Roy Johnson from Sentinel Comics. How you doing, Roy?
Good, how are you?
All right, glad to have you. We've also got Aid Smith, freaking co-host. How you doing, Aid?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
All right, Jacob Blackman, how are you?
I am very well rested from Gen Con now.
Oh, how was Gen Con?
This was one of the better and yet most stressful Gen Cons I have ever been to.
Well, yeah,
anyone who's read the essay that I put up on Facebook regarding how I almost killed Mercedes Lackey will know what happened.
I saw that. That is a whole other subject. But yeah, I'm glad she's okay. That sounds pretty dramatic. And also joining us is Walt Rebelliard. Walt, how you doing?
Caffeinated, animated.
All right, beautiful. All right, well, hey, let's just jump right in. Roy, since you're the guest, I'll let you go first. What's your favorite superhero animation?
Probably the old school Justice League Unlimited, just because they were able to sort of distill the characters down to their core elements and then build the stories from there and then expand it into the DC universe. So it was good to see both the characters handled well and to see the variety of characters that were in the series, right? That's kind of my favorite overall, I guess.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that myself, the whole Bruce Timm universe back in the day. I'll go ahead, Walt. What are you saying?
Oh, no, I was going to say I thought we had a frozen connection, but I think we're good now.
Okay. Yeah, the network can be unreliable sometimes. Actually, that kind of dovetails into I was going to talk about this one I saw recently was almost a sequel to the Batman animated adventures. It was Batman and Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Bruce Timm wrote it. Kevin Conroy, most of the original voice cast, was back to do it. And I really wanted to like it because I'm a big fan of the Batman animated series, but they just did so much weird shit with this movie. I just couldn't give it a recommendation. It was almost like one of those screwball 1960s comedies. They have two musical numbers back to back. And it really would kind of kill it for me was at the very end. They're fighting
musical numbers.
Two musical numbers back to back.
Yep. They're the twins who are henchmen of Two-Face are doing a duet when the scene starts, and in the middle of the scene, Harley Quinn sings.
Yeah. All right, so Jacob, you saw it. What'd you think of the end scene there, where it looks like Swamp Thing has shown up to save the day, and there's all this orchestral music as he rises from the swamp, and then he says, I really shouldn't interfere, and just goes away.
That is the version of Swamp Thing that I hate. That is the godlike Parliament of the Green Swamp Thing that Alan Moore created. I like the Bernie Wrightson monster Swamp Thing.
Yeah, I would have to agree that there were some funny bits. Although, they kind of went for the cheap laughs. There were several fart jokes with Harley Quinn riding in the backseat of the Batmobile.
Yeah, there were a couple of jokes I enjoyed, when they were discussing what heroes were available for the Justice League, and Nightwing was making those hand signals for loser, no, those little bits were fun, but in general, this one had a little too much comedy for what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, nobody wants to team up with poor Booster Gold. Although, coming back to Roy's point, in Justice League Unlimited, one of the best episodes they had, I think, was Crowd Control, where you had, Booster Gold just basically, handling crowd control during one of those big cosmic events, and it was a lot of nice character moments for him. So, going back to the strength of that series. Aid, how about you?
Out of all the ones I've seen, and I own quite a lot of them, the ones I favour more than anything else is the ones that are actually not retellings of comic books.
Okay.
So I've like the Batman the Killing Joke. I've only watched the first bit of it because I obviously know what's going to happen at the end of Killing Joke. So I just stopped, and that was it. And I've never, and it just happened to be I was doing something at the time, but I've never gone back to watch it. Whereas stuff like the Teen Titans versus Justice League and Justice League Dark, they are unique stories as far as I'm aware. So they are much more interesting because you've got no idea what's going to happen next. But if you're going to watch like, hey, I'm going to watch Batman Year One, you know what's going to happen at the end of Year One. You know what's going to happen in The Dark Knight Returns. You know what's going to happen in Killing Joke. So anything like that is always really good. Which again is another good reason why Justice League Unlimited was so damn good, because the stories are unique. They may be beats of stuff you've seen in previous comics, and the same with the Batman animated series. They did all those episodes, and they didn't immediately go, okay, we've got to retell the Bane stuff. We've got to retell, this, that, and the other. So yeah, that's why they were really, really good series. Whereas the X-Men TV series, obviously, or the X-Men animated series, very, very good. But still, hey, we've got to do Days of Futures Past because that's not been done 9,000 times. So,
To that point, I would like to make mention that the animated movie they released for Batman Gaslight.
Oh yeah.
They completely changed the story for that. So anyone who has read the comic will still get some nice entertainment out of that movie.
See, I haven't got around to getting that one yet. That's just ridiculous because I was going to pre-order it, didn't get around to it. But yeah, going back for pure nostalgia, Spider-Man is Amazing Friends. Now that was a cool show. So
I think we were separated at birth, Aid.
Yeah, I think it's just one of them shows because again, it was one of them shows that you loved as a kid because it was after the 78 or whatever Spider-Man TV series. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, it's got Captain America and the Red Skull in there, and it's got Namor in it, and it's got So that was a really cool show. So yeah.
Walt, what do you think?
I think that Aid and I were separated at birth. Damn right. that is a damn fine show. I loved during the late 80s, early 90s, where a lot of animation was getting big. And one of the greatest things ever was getting to see my first real big animated movie in a movie theater. Sat in line, got the popcorn. I think I was 16, 17, somewhere in that neighborhood. Got in line, got the popcorn. I didn't want anybody with me. I wanted to experience it by myself. And those motherfuckers killed Optimus Prime. I was crushed. Crushed, I tell you. So Transformers the movie. What a great experience in the theater as a young kid.
I was 10. And crushed.
Crushed. But you know something? I really liked the idea that in that movie, there were so many good themes in that movie that were just fantastic and really over the heads of the majority of the audience, where you don't realize it until many years later. And a friend of mine had gotten me the DVD copy to take with me on deployment, and I was watching it, and I was just like, man, there was so much in there that was just way over the heads of young kids, and even as a 16-year-old, I didn't catch it. So I mean, it was just really great experience. But the thing I really loved about that movie is it opened up the fact that you could watch an animated movie in the theater and really enjoy it, not just as an adult, but it didn't need to go straight to TV. You could have this big theater experience with a cartoon, much like they have in places like Japan. And Mask of the Phantasm came out in 92, I believe, 93, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I was in the Army at the time, and I took my my girlfriend at the time to the theater, and it was just like, hey, I want to go see this cartoon. Please don't hate me too much. But we both enjoyed it. A great storyline. And I think doing that did a lot for animation, because it showed that animation still had this really great draw. So yeah, Transformers the movie. Oh yeah, all day long. And the fact that movie spawned today a rock band that dresses up as Transformers to sing those two famous songs from the from the movie. It's just like, wow, that's some staying power.
Hey, Walt, I got some good news for you.
What's that?
Thursday, September 27th, Transformers the movie is back in the big screens.
Oh my God! Tell me it's on IMAX.
I don't know. Go to Fathom Events. They're the ones taking care of it. But yeah, I wish I could take my kid, but he's 5, and that's not a meltdown I want to have in public.
See, I forgot about Transformers the movie because I was more focused on superhero stuff. But Transformers movie is one of the greatest films ever made.
Right.
I own it 5 times on DVD or Blu-ray,
Right.
and I have the soundtrack, and I absolutely adore that film. And again, the cool thing about it was as well is that they somehow managed to go, even back then. They did the TV series, they did the movie, and then they did 2 TV series afterwards, and they stuck to the continuity of the movie rather than just going, "Oh yeah, ignore the film or ignore the TV series." It was actually part of the film, and that was really, really good for it. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic.
I loved the fact that they had a successor, you know, that somebody from the ranks could come up and assume that mantle. And that speaks a lot to not only just cartoon heroes in general, but also in comics. You know, you have that legacy character, that, you know, that Bucky character or Robin, who's got to step up and take the place of the hero, because losing that hero leaves such a vacuum that if you don't take that place, you know, even if you don't want the responsibility, you end up losing more than you would gain by avoiding that responsibility. So I mean, it's just a great movie all around, and thank God they got it on Blu-ray. I can't wait till they get it. If they can somehow remaster it to 4K, I think it would blow my head straight off. That would just be amazing.
And they weren't obviously afraid of killing characters. You see, numerous characters died in that thing, which is fantastic. Because I remember that when they did the G.I. Joe movie, and they apparently did the focus groups, and at the end of it, they were killing off. Oh my god, I can't remember what the character was now. They were killing one of the characters off. Yes, the main character. And it's like, oh, he's died. Oh, my God, Duke, yes, it. And then right at the end, apparently they snuck in a bit where we go, oh, Duke's in the hospital and he's okay. And everyone goes, hey, because they didn't have the balls to actually kill him off. With Prime, they kept him dead for at least a couple of seasons afterwards. And obviously then all the other characters, the like Ironhide and all that kind of stuff that died right at the beginning, they never come back. So it's like, yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. It was funny. In the military, we had an exchange officer who was from Great Britain. And he wanted to know what all the hype was about G.I. Joe, because I guess you guys couldn't watch it over there at the time.
No, we had it right.
Excuse me. So I had a bunch of them on video cassette. So I loaned it to him, and he says, you know what? I really don't understand about these 2 groups. He's like, I don't understand the fact that they're using these laser guns. And I said, well, you know, I guess it's for kids. They don't want to show, you know, people being ripped apart by bullets. He goes, no, you don't understand. They should just do away with the guns, and they should just insult each other back and forth. Mm-hmm. I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, they're not shooting anybody. Nobody ever gets hit. He's like, vehicles explode, but then they always parachute out. And when they're shooting at each other, even at close distance, he's like, nothing happened. So why this show would be much more interesting with witty banter back and forth. I was like, that's great.
That is true. Yeah, that reminds me. Well, hang on before I get off on that tangent. To your point about the successor, yeah, I mean, you had Rodimus Prime, but he hasn't. I mean, he got to be leader for a little while, and then wait, everyone loved Optimus. Nostalgia. I mean, it's kind of like the way Bruce Wayne's always Batman, Hal Jordan's always Green Lantern. Nostalgia rules over everything else, and the new characters kind of take the back seat. Roy, as a comic book creator, how do you feel about that? Is that something you deal with in Sentinel Comics at all?
Well, I haven't really had it around long enough to have that, but I mean, I think there's something to be said for actually sticking with the original character, whoever that might be, whether it's Captain America or Green Lantern, because what does happen is they die, or they get stranded in time, or they go off to a parallel universe or whatever. And then 4 or 5 people come in, blah, oh, they're the new, oh, guess what? The original guy's back. So why bother with all that? Like, just give new characters something interesting to do and try to build them into interesting, standalone, archetypal characters that in 20, 30 years are going to be viewed in sort of a similar way to the Batmans and Captain Americas. Like, what it's just so gimmicky and it's so predictable and it's so, at the end of the day, pointless because you're not really giving the new character an identity of their own. You're just trying to make them Batman Jr. or Captain America with a metal arm or, you know, whatever it is. So I would say if you're going to kill somebody off, kill them off and leave them dead. But that's only like, what, Martha Wayne and
yeah.
Parker now? Are the only people that have died in comics that have had the decency to stay dead?
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, Captain Marvel. Ben Wright, Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben and I mean, even I guess Thomas Wayne is alive.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Technically,
Yeah.
yeah, alternate universes, yeah. That's the trouble. That's again, it's the Marvel don't even do that. Marvel don't even give legacy characters. Marvel just like, hey, we've got 5 different versions of Wolverine running around because there we go, old man Logan, new Logan, this Logan, that Logan. Because like, what the hell, go for it.
And if you pick up Exiles, they have Chibi Logan.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, so it's just like, okay, we can't even. Yeah,
well, that just points to the main problem, right? Is that, you know, other than name 10 breakout characters from the last 30 years.
Oh shit, that's a challenge.
Deadpool and Harley Quinn and
Well, no, those are actually older than 10 years. Harley Quinn's like 20, isn't she?
Yeah, it's Batman animated.
Yeah.
Yeah, Deadpool was from the 90s. That's almost 20 years. Invincible?
Invincible, yeah. There's one.
Shit, that's tough. I can't even name 5. Can you guys think of some?
I would say some of the Image characters, but even that is older than 20 years.
So again, a lot of the Marvel stuff, if you go over to Marvel, you can think of characters that have resurgences over the last 20 years, 30 years, or 10 years, or whatever. Because like, Squirrel Girl, no, she was made ages ago. You go, oh, okay, Rocket Raccoon, no, that was years ago as well. So yeah, all these characters have kind of like just had resurgences rather than actually being created from whole cloth, like really recently. Yeah,
one of my favorite series of the last 5 years was when Warren Ellis kind of revamped Moon Knight for about 6 issues. But I mean, there again, that's a revamp of character. It's been around since the 70s. I mean, it's all the stuff you see on Netflix with the Marvel heroes. I mean, arguably the Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, Daredevil we got there are very, very different from the ones in the comics, but they're still, yeah, I mean.
Am I right in also thinking Moon Knight is actually getting a Netflix series as well?
No one knows.
I don't think it's been advanced. I don't think it's been officially announced, but I can easily see it happening.
It would work, yeah. It would be pretty cool.
Netflix is doing everything. They're going to have a Diablo TV show now. I'm not sure what you do with that, but the old Blizzard game Diablo.
Oh, really?
It's a rumor. So we'll see.
Okay,
I would watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, if they can do Castlevania, I'm sure they can do Diablo. So.
Well, I recently heard that they didn't they sign a deal with to get Invincible made into a show.
I want to say they did, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Is it Warren Ellis? Who's the guy, or is it the other guy?
It's Mark Millar that got a huge thing.
Millar, that's right.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
on
Netflix comic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but Warren Ellis was the guy who was writing Castlevania, and
yeah, that's right.
I gotta say he made it pretty cool. I was never a fan of the video game or any of the previous, other previous games in that series, but Warren Ellis, cranky bastard that he is, made a decent cartoon out of it.
They do they are willing to take a risk.
Yeah.
So and again, worst thing is the problem with now is obviously we've got so many of these platforms that are just doing. Obviously, the DC platform's going to have all the DC shows on it, and but considering what the Titans trailer looked like, it's like okay, I can live without Titans. That's fine. Doom Patrol, maybe we'll see. Swamp Thing, now you're talking. But
well, there was a previous Swamp Thing TV show here in America.
Oh yeah, the Dirk Murdoch. Or was he the guy? Was he the same guy in the movie, or was he the same guy in the TV series?
What happened to you, Aid? There was like 5 seconds. I wasn't sure what was going on.
All right, sorry. It's my internet is on the spaz anyway, but yeah.
Okay, I honestly I didn't watch it because it was on USA, so I figured it was terrible. I remember Pamela Anderson was in one episode, but
really?
It was on the USA Network back in the early 90s.
And also, Swamp Thing also had his own animated series, didn't he? With the cool soundtrack. Come on, we all remember the Swamp Thing soundtrack for the animated series.
I don't actually remember this.
You should hum a few bars.
It was Swamp Thing, You Are Amazing. Do you not remember that one? Swamp Thing, you are amazing. No? Okay, Google.
We need to have a musical episode now.
Go and look for the Swamp Thing.
I'm doing it right now.
You will see it.
Swamp Thing song comes right up. Dear God, look at this.
Yeah, it was Anton Arcane's and his Unmen. That was what it was all about. So yeah.
Can you guys hear that over my mic?
All I hear is scratching.
Oh, okay. Oh God, this is terrible. This is like, oh God.
I did say it was good. I just said he had an animated series.
That's really terrible. That's, oh my God. Okay. Well, hey, so if we don't have any breakout characters from the big two, maybe that's why we turn to indie comics. And I think, as Walt has said, almost every podcast for the last 2 years, that's where he goes. Yeah, indie is where it's at. That's where the exciting creative stuff is happening. And that brings us back to Roy, who we first had you on, I want to say last year, to talk about the forced labor comic you were doing on Kickstarter.
Yep. So that was a Kickstarter for a sort of done-in-one superhero team comic. The title of the book called The Sentinels, and my company is called Standard Comics, which was actually a comic company in the 40s and 1950s, and then went out of business. I first started basically just commissioning artwork, and I had a theme of public domain characters, and I put the Standard Comics logo on it. And then I figured I'd actually make a real comic. So that was what Forced Labor was about, which was a few of my original characters and some public domain ones updated for the present day. And the idea being, like, when you were a kid, or at least when I was a kid in the 70s and early 80s, you know, you go into a grocery store, you go into a whatever, and you go to the comic spinner rack, and you go, ooh, what's that? You pick it up, and you go, Justice League 218. Okay, well, this looks cool. There's a bunch of dudes in there, and it's 200 and some issues, so there's like a history I don't know anything about, but, you know, there's going to be some expository dialogue in that book that's going to catch you up on whatever happened last issue, and there's going to be editorial boxes. You remember editorial boxes where it'd be like, somebody saying, oh, the last time we met Felix Faust, and then editorial Justice League 142, which gives you a little incentive to go, well, I'm going to go track that thing down in the back issue bin, and sort of, I'm coming into a book with characters with a storied history, right? And you don't know the details of that, but you want to become a part of it, and you want to become knowledgeable about that bigger world that's implied by this one issue, this one little window into that larger fictional world. So I was trying to do, excuse me, the same kind of idea with Forced Labor last year, or a year and a half ago, whatever it was, which was tell a story done in one, but also sort of refer to his, yeah, it would be when you were a kid, and when it was picked away, so that was successfully Kickstarter, and do a sort of a issue. So letting out. Okay.
I apologize. I think I lost you there for a second, Roy.
There might be some background noise as well, but so I basically funded this Forced Labor Kickstarter comic to tell a story that's done in one, but also leaves open the possibility of next issue. So I wrote the next issue, which is called Hammer and Anvil, which mentions in a roundabout way, or mentions results from that previous issue, but again is a done-in-one story, so that you could come in, you get a beginning, a middle, and an end to a story. I'm stealing shamelessly from the Paul Levitz paradigm of putting in little subplots, which technically aren't subplots, they're the beginnings of new stories, as a way to add a little bit of texture to the book itself, the main story, and then to set up the next issue. but you wouldn't have had to read this issue to read the next to understand the next issue. So that's currently running on Kickstarter. We've got 1 week to go. It's only about 25% funded, so statistically things don't look too good, but plowing through on that, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then I'll just sort of, take a step back, regroup, replan, and try again. So that's currently running at standard-comics.com/Sentinels268. That'll take you right to the Kickstarter campaign, and that's kind of where it stands right now. But I hope to get that book done, completed, and out to people, and move on to future projects.
That's the beautiful thing about Kickstarter is that you can tweak it and always try again.
Yeah, that's the hope.
So I gotta say, I read Forced Labor and I really enjoyed it. I thought that was a great read. And if any readers want to find that, you are on Indie Planet, right?
Yep. You can also go to standard-comics.com/store, STORE, and that'll actually direct you to the Indie Planet thing. There's a couple of the Standard Comics Encyclopedia, which is sort of my own Marvel Handbook, DC Who's Who, if anybody remembers those, which actually I have one right here. Basically, there's the pretty pictures of the characters, but also a bit of the history to this fictional universe that I think a lot of people, when they picked up Marvel Handbook or DC Who's Who at the time, they knew, Daredevil and Captain America and so, but they'd also encounter these odd, who the hell is Space Cabbie? What is that guy about? And it engendered a bit of interest in those characters. And I think, again, this kind of plays off the idea of a window into a universe you just haven't met yet. So those are a couple of the other things available.
I didn't realize Space Cabbie even existed until I was watching Justice League Action, and Patton Oswalt plays him, and I
didn't know Space Cabbie.
I didn't know. Take my geek card, Aid. I didn't know who Space Cabbie was.
It was Space Cabbie in a Starman issue. I'm trying to think. He's definitely made an appearance in something fairly recently. Like, fairly recently, as in the last 20 years. That's quite recently.
Yeah, I sometimes when I'm driving my kid, I let him watch Justice League Action, and
it's a good episode.
Yeah, it's just about his attention span too. Just quick, short little bursts of action, and they still get character notes, and there's still some humor in there, but they also touch on some characters that maybe you wouldn't usually see in a younger generation, like my 5-year-old. He wouldn't know who Space Cabbie was or Plastic Man.
Is that the one where Green Lantern loses his ring or something, and Space Cabbie's trying to help him get it back?
I think there might be one like that, and there's also one where Space Cabbie's just doing fairs across the universe, and he has to take Darkseid somewhere, and it's really awkward.
I also remember one with Space Cabbie and Superman crashing into the cab.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I can't remember all of them off the top. There have been a few different ones like that, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I tried to watch Batman Brave and Bold with him last week because he's really into Lego Batman, and he had a little figurine for Gentleman Ghost. He was like, "Daddy, who's Gentleman Ghost?" So I pulled up the episode of Batman Brave and the Bold, and it starts out with Batman's ghost rising from his tombstone and narrating the beginning of the episode. And my kid just his eyes grew wide, and he got really sad, and he went to go hide in his room for a while. And I was like, "Let me show you the end of the episode. See, Batman's okay." It's sometimes hard, those are like landmines. You don't realize it's going to be out there, and then it kind of sneaks up on you.
But that's another good show. It is a very good show. Again, it's the same kind of thing. It's got some humor in it you don't realize, but it's also got lots of stuff going on that kids can love and actually enjoy. And
I feel the same way about Teen Titans Go, but apparently I'm the only person who likes that show who's not under the age of 10. So it seems like everyone else hates it. But they had a hit movie, so I can't be the only one, I suppose. I see Jacob biting his tongue. He doesn't want to get in.
I preferred the previous Teen Titans.
I think everyone did, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not bad. It's got some funny things in it. It's just a shame that they killed the other Titans show to do that one instead. But there you go.
And it's an interesting thing in animation because it really sticks with you, especially when you grow up with it. I mean, look at the fan backlash at the Thundercats art that was going around for a while. Um, they made it cartoony, very
Oh
Teen
yeah,
Titans Go,
yeah.
and just fans of the original show just lined up and crucified them online. So yeah, the downside of having a big animated property that people love is when you try and redo it. If you don't stick to that love interest, it becomes really weird really fast.
My serious issue on that is because they had a really good remade Thundercats show.
They did.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was really good.
The story was far better than the original show, which was pretty much episodic, and it was fantastic. And they killed it. They didn't want it.
But so, funny enough as well, you talk about that style of animation. There's a new She-Ra show coming out on Netflix that's got a very kind of not quite so Teen Titans Go, but it's definitely got kind of those angler, kind of like Samurai Jack kind of style animation.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about that is what annoyed me about that is they kind of pushed it to say it was like, okay, we're doing this because we need more female representation on TV shows. It's like, yeah, but you could have done a She-Ra and He-Man action hour. You could have had both of them in the same show. That would have been fantastic. Then you could have represented everybody. It would have been fantastic.
I stopped following that when there are certain buzzwords that when I see them online, it just triggers my hackles to go up in the back.
I mean, it's not to say it's going to be terrible because it hasn't actually come out yet, but it's just a real shame. Could have done both, and they could have had Eternia and the other place. They could have done stories with both characters in it, all those characters, all those bad guys, and you could have said, "Hey, we're not going to do just male. We're not just going to do female. We're going to do everybody can have a favorite character out of these gazillion characters they've got in that universe." So. To
the counterpoint of that,
yes,
being a fan of He-Man and She-Ra from the 80s, She-Ra was the superior show. He-Man was all about maintaining the status quo. The heroes were of Eternia were in charge of Eternia, and they were pretty much and the bad guys were always just trying to get power, and the heroes would always quash them down. So other than the villains coming up with a new plot to try to take over the world, that was pretty much that. On the flip side, She-Ra was much more interesting because the bad guys had already won. This was a story about heroes trying to rise above and eliminate the oppressive empire. It was the classic Star Wars story that everyone enjoyed. The rebels against the empire. That's what really drew me to She-Ra over He-Man.
Now, what did you think of the He-Man remake from 2002?
I enjoyed it more. Again, much like Thundercats, I enjoyed it more because the story was more interesting.
Yeah, because it still had two bad guys. Hordak was,
Hordak was apparently always supposed to be part of Skeletor, but they made him much more interesting.
That's what I mean. That's why it's such a shame that they've not utilised that thing. I mean, again, we don't know because we may still see guest stars of He-Man. We may see He-Man characters in the new She-Ra show. So at the moment, we've literally seen one screenshot. It's just a shame they could have not done a whole thing for it. But yeah, the 2002 show was really, really good. Every time I think about this, I remember there's one episode where He-Man's taken on these massive 40-foot giants and he's just like punching them down and flipping them around. I just loved that. That fight was just such a cool fight. It was just so good. But yeah.
I would just love to see a modern film adaptation of Masters of the Universe where the transformation scene isn't cheesy, but I got to tell you, the most jarring thing ever was when He-Man came out. I had seen the advertisement for it in a comic book, in the back of a comic, and they, I saved up my money and got the first action figures, and then they came with comics themselves. So I was like, this is amazing. So I needed more of them. So I started collecting them, not so much for the figures. I wanted the comics. Hey, that's enough.
You can get a collection of those comics now.
Yeah, I know. I have it. And then what ended up happening was the show came out, and it was nowhere near the storyline. I mean, you had He-Man, you had Skeletor, but now He-Man was this transformation that took place rather than this barbarian who had rose to prominence. And I was just like, oh, all right. No.
Have you watched the Netflix show? Well, no, it's on Netflix anyway. The Toys That Made Us.
Yes, it's really good.
Because the He-Man one in that explains why that happened. Because they effectively did all the comic books before they did the actual toys, and they were like, "Oh crap, we forgot to put all this stuff in there." So, yeah. But yeah, no, it's good stuff. Yeah, it was a good show. I love that show.
Yeah, I kind of feel like She-Ra and He-Man are sort of in this weird place where they don't have enough of a fan base to like
get rebooted.
Well, yeah, like the 2002 was supposed to be a really good cartoon, but they just didn't get the numbers or whatever to make. And so I think that's why they're doing the thing with She-Ra, where they're trying to take a little different direction, where you still can tap into some nostalgia, but you're trying to sell it to a new crowd. I mean, I think Teen Titans Go, if nothing else, they proved you can piss off your old fans, but still keep enough of them where you've got a base and you can appeal to guys like my kid, who really want to see it. And they'll pester me to buy toys when next time I go to Walmart. And
again, they definitely have the potential to be good shows. I mean, the She-Ra show. Oh crikey, what's the other one called? I know, like my nephews, Cat Noir and Ladybird and Cat Noir, which is like this
Miraculous.
Miraculous. That's the one. Yeah, it's a CGI French co-production thingy. They love that, and that's a good, and it's got good episodes. And there's always a baddie that's like the baddie of the week, and yeah, it's definitely some stuff they can actually do with these shows, rather than just be like go down the same route. Like, hey, we're going to make Teen Titans Go, and everything's going to be crazy. They can actually do heroic shows, but yeah.
Now, the problem with the 2002 He-Man show is that it was appealing directly to the original crowd and not enough to a new crowd. And that's what's really happening with a lot of the newer shows, is they're trying to capture a new crowd. You get a lot of that with the new Voltron series that's on Netflix. It nods to the old, but it trying to appeal to the new with its new stories and new takes on characters. And that's why I'm looking forward to the new She-Ra show. Not so much with the new Thundercats show because of its animation. I do not support crappy animation as an artist.
I'm looking forward to that new grim and gritty reboot of Captain Caveman. How about you guys?
Oh,
yes.
I love Captain Caveman.
So, give me a Herculoids cartoon.
Animation goes through a weird thing, because a couple of years ago we had like that kind of very, very flat kind of web browser animation style stuff where everything was very, very flat. And now like they did even like Looney Tunes. They've had Looney Tunes show and Rabbit, I think it's called. One of them is Bugs Bunny. It's like, and they completely redesigned the characters. And it's like, right, so you're telling me that a character design that's gone for 50, 60 years or whatever is now not good enough. You have to change it slightly. It's like, why don't you keep the damn thing the same? And Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo, the amount of reboots of Scooby-Doo's gone through. And then they did some shitty ones and then did some really good ones. So it's like, oh, terrible.
Well, it's, some of that animation, I still see stuff my kid watches. There's basically a sequel to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood called Daniel Tiger, which is all set in the neighborhood of make-believe, and it's all that very flat animation. But he loves it, and it's been on for like 7 series or 7 seasons, so not the only one. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I guess you kind of rack around to the power of nostalgia, then trying to leverage nostalgia while still appealing to new readers. Roy, you've got a lot of public domain characters in the Sentinels. Was that did you just pick them up because you remember them from reading them from back in the day, or was it just kind of a cool thing you wanted to work in there? Or what was the motivation on that?
Well, like I say, when I first started, I was commissioning art, and I kind of was looking for a theme, and I think I'd stumbled on the public domain characters online probably, and partly through that Alan Moore Terra Obscura series. And it comes back to like that. Here's this whole history of, DC was around for 70 years and Marvel was around for 70 years, and they essentially created their own unified superhero comic universe. It's got a history. This happened, that happened, and there's the Kree Skull Wars, and there's the, whatever happens. And it's like all these characters from these defunct companies that went out of business at the end of the war, they kind of got screwed over. And in a way, you can view it like, we got screwed over because as comic book fans and as superhero fans, maybe there would have been 3 big companies in North America publishing superhero, right? DC, Marvel, and Standard Comics is what I'm doing. And I just kind of thought, well, that's kind of an interesting thing, is to just take all these different characters and sort of pretend, if you will, that some company bought the rights to all of them and has been publishing superhero comics since the 60s. And that's kind of like Big Bang Comics is a sort of pastiche of DC and Marvel, mainly DC, with this fictitious publishing history. And I just absorbed those and updated a few for kind of thing that my characters in there. So some of them are newish, some are like from like the 1980s. You can from their costumes, they're from the 80s. And then that was kind of the idea of, well, you put them all in this mixing pot and see what comes out, and that's kind of where the idea of the group comic mixing together public domain guys and mine sort of came from.
Okay, yeah, cool. I gotta hey, while we're talking, could you possibly kill your camera? That might help with the audio.
Like that?
Yeah, let's see how that goes. Just because we were getting some bandwidth issues. Not to bring up forced labor again, 'cause I know that's not the current Kickstarter, but I really enjoyed the art you had on there from David. Boy, how do you say his? Bernaski? Yeah, he just had some great work, and I like the stuff you have on the new one as well, Hammer and Anvil. But Walt and I were talking about this. Your cover looks very, very Bronze Age.
Yeah. Look at the cover, kind of weird, because I had a vague image in my mind of what I wanted the cover to be, but I didn't tell the artist that. But he came up with pretty much the exact thing I wanted, which was like the three heroes are very much surrounded by this group of ordinary people that are attacking them. And I was like, well, why are they attacking them? It's kind of like those Bronze Age covers where you pick it up off the rack and you just go, well, what the hell's going on? I got to know. So I'm going to buy this book, right? That's Luis Rivera is the artist on that. And he's got a really sort of deliberate, a Bronze Age kind of style, like a, I don't know. It would fit in, I think, with DC or Marvel of the late 70s, early 80s kind of a look, right? So it was very, very much a consideration in choosing the artist, was it creates that vibe of a Bronze Age book, right?
Cool. Yeah, it definitely sets the tone for it. I'll be backing this later today, and I'll be keeping trying to keep in touch to see if we don't fund this time, when it does fund. But can we talk briefly about what kind of story you're doing in this one?
Yeah, it's I've posted a few pages, but I've kind of, for whatever reason, wanted to keep a spoiler light kind of thing and not say, oh, well, this is
Ruh-roh.
Basically, if you open, these are being villains, and the bystanders just suddenly start attacking them for no reason. And it's like, what the hell's going on? And of course, being superheroes, they what are they going to do? Punch these ordinary citizens in the face? No, they can't do that. You're going to hurt them. So they sort of hightail it out, and they head back to headquarters and try to figure out what's going on. And they find that there's weird changes in crowd behavior and emotions happening throughout the world. Like there's peaceful protests that suddenly become violent, and there was actually a brewing civil war in Europe that suddenly calmed down. And it's like, well, what the hell's going on? So the idea is that throughout the story, the heroes obviously figure out what the cause of this is, and it's some supervillain, obviously, and it just sort of tells the story of how they deal with that and There's another element to it I don't know I really want to say that hopefully would be entertaining in the book, but that's basically the story, right? Is that something weird's happening, they figure out what it is, and they go chase the villain down.
Okay, cool. And getting ready to wrap up, but yeah, just to readers, go to Kickstarter and just Google Hammer and search for Hammer and Anvil, and they'll come up. And if you want to go to Indie Planet, do a search for Forced Labor or for Standard Comics, and you can find Sentinel's Standard Comics holdback catalog there, and it's well worth checking out. Anybody have any closing thoughts before we call it a podcast?
We need to find a way to link in the Swamp Thing song and then either Dare or Touch from the Transformers movies. Thank you.
So now you're talking. And I don't intend to sing again next time. Just
we still need to do a musical
I think everybody tricks me and just go, no, we don't know what it is. Just sing a bit.
I could probably sing the entirety of "You Got the Touch."
We're getting the band together. This is going to happen.
But yeah, there was my favorite one of that one. So.
How about we make that the premium BAMF podcast for subscribers who want to pay the extra $5 a month? Those sort of special features.
Featuring the dulcet tones of Aid Smith and Jacob Blackman. You can also get hits such as...
My tones are not dulcet. I sing like Peter Steele.
Who's Peter Steele?
The lead singer of Typo Negative.
Oh!
Oh, very cool.
Oh, okay. That's
my tone.
Deep.
Nice.
You know, I heard a great phrase on the radio the other day. Someone was talking about like really heavy metal, and he was like, "Yeah, I call it Cookie Monster rock."
That's great.
That has just stuck with me. Did Roy drop off?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, geez. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you all next time on the BAMF podcast.
Peace.